to Purchase Late Night, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Emma Grace Myers, and I am behind the desk. To start, I want you guys to know something. When I started working on this piece, I had planned to write some jokes about the way the media was dealing with our first female president-elect after a campaign riddled with sexism coming from journalists, major networks, and even from the flaming piece of human garbage disguised as a presidential candidate. Well, I guess the joke's on me. Okay, on Tuesday, nasty women all across the country stayed up until the wee hours of the morning to see history happen. Unfortunately, the only history we saw was most to ever sweat to pour from the brow of CNN Magic Wall aficionado John King. John King was a ball of stress, just like the rest of us, and unfortunately, he had to talk through it. It was a tough night. Listen, buddy, you just gotta take a deep breath. Oof. You know what? I think that would be good for all of us. Why doesn't everybody here in the audience just take a deep breath with me, okay? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I needed a minute. I'm sorry, okay. So here's what really grills my cheese about this election, you guys. We're seeing a similar situation to what happened in 2000 when George W. Bush was elected for the first time. His opponent, environmental advocate and strong, independent man who don't need no eyebrows, Al Gore, won the popular vote, which in democratic theory would mean that he wins the presidency, right?
Very nice words, but happens to be wrong. Wrong.
That is absolutely
wrong.
Proved over and over again.
Wrong.
The action.
Wrong. 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 Wrong.
I get it. Oh my God. But yes, our polar bear political pundit lost on the highest office in the nation because of the Electoral College. And the same thing happened to America's aunt who you hug because your mom said you should. Hillary Rodham Clinton. Hillary fought through a lot of adversity throughout her campaign, from her email scandal to the Benghazi hearings, and even that time when she learned to dab on Ellen. She got a lot of flack for the dabbing, but I just like to point out that Ellen is so much worse at dabbing than she is. What the hell is she doing? Now, don't get me wrong, I love Hillary, and I was thrilled to vote for her, which is probably a more unpopular stance than the classic, ugh, I guess I'll vote for her, hashtag Bernie or bust, hashtag Bernie Bros, hashtag I find your voice shrill and your smile off-putting, but I have to vote for you or no woman in her right mind will ever sleep with me again. Hillary Clinton lost in the Electoral College, but she did beat Donald Trump by some 200,000 votes. However, this is not the biggest problem we face right now. The real problem here is that 59,618,815 people actually voted for this fear-mongering Cheeto. That's about 59,618,813 votes too many. That's two less for Donald voting for himself and for Melania, who definitely also voted for Donald, he checked. This says a lot about the state of our nation. Lots of political analysts were predicting that Hillary would win in a near landslide, but on November 8th, they were so close that they needed a photo finish. This shockingly dead heat race between a qualified public servant and a racist reality star ultimately led to Hillary delivering a poised, noble concession speech in which she addressed the divide that really came to our attention on Tuesday.
Our campaign was never about one person or even one election. It was about the country we love and about building an America that's hopeful, inclusive, and big-hearted. We have seen that our nation is more deeply divided than we thought. But I still believe in America, and I always will. And if you do, then we must accept this result and then look to the future.
We have realized that our system is incredibly flawed and isn't working for everyone, and that's something we're going to have to work towards fixing. But for now, we have what we have. We voted. One candidate got more votes, albeit electoral ones, and now that candidate will be the Sorry, just one second. The President of the United States of America. Okay. So we ended up with President-elect Donald J. Trump. We all know people who voted for him. I know I certainly do. And I should mention that most of the people who I know that voted Republican last week are not deliberate racists, so to speak. Many of them would go to the ends of the earth to make sure people know that they don't outwardly hate black people or Mexicans or Muslims or women or the LGBT community for that matter. It's kind of like your coworker saying, I only really like taking on white clients so that I feel safe and less threatened, but I'm certainly not racist. And then you go back to your desk thrilled that you finally have a legitimate reason to delete Todd from sales on Facebook. Listen, here's the issue. When you cast your vote for Donald Trump last week, you were not just voting for his ideas to invest in infrastructure, or his promise not to raise taxes, or his plan to implement congressional term limits, or whatever other thing that you cherry-picked from the cesspool. You voted for all of him. A disrespectful, toxic, narcissistic man-baby with the temperament of a toddler and social stances that will set us back a century. Maybe you're not a bigot, but when you get behind something, it's important that you recognize you're getting behind all of it, not just the bits and pieces that you like or the ones that support the point you're trying to make. Maybe you don't like absolutely everything that's in there, but you have to acknowledge its existence and own up to the fact that you are choosing to support this entire thing, not just the parts that are convenient for you. And that leaves the rest of us, those who voted for Hillary. While this is certainly an extreme case, this is essentially politics as usual. A candidate we didn't vote for won. This happens a lot. Since the beginning of the 20th century, the office of the president has been held by 8 Democrats and 12 Republicans, including our current president-elect. We've been dealt a hand we don't want, and unfortunately we have very few options other than acknowledging the fact that he did, in fact, win. So, you know, not only can we not always get what we want, but sometimes we do get things that we don't want. For example, Toy Story 4. Why? Nobody asked for this. It's completely unnecessary, and the third one ended so perfectly. Am I even going to see it? I mean, yeah! I can't just not see it. I'm not a monster, but I'm not going to be happy about it. Damn it. I probably am going to end up being happy about it. This is a bad example. Anyways, so we are here, and we have something that we really, really don't want to have. Like, if a little kid gets their mom some lame thing she doesn't want or need for Christmas, and she has to accept it and keep it for 4 to 8 years. Look, I am not going to tell you that everything is going to be okay, because chances are it really may not be for a lot of people. So what can we do? First of all, deal with this however you see fit. Protest or don't, cry or remain stoic, start a discussion or sort through your own thoughts. Just burrow into the ground if you got it. I hear groundhogs are a very welcoming species. We have all been taking the past week or so to deal with what this means for ourselves and our neighbors, and that is okay. Personally, I feel there are 2 things that we can do to maintain ourselves over the coming presidential term. The first is to not quit. We have all been walked all over here. Women, POC, the LGBT community, Muslims, and pretty much everyone who isn't a straight white dude. We have been threatened with sexual assault and deportation and blatant prejudice. Everything is not okay, and it likely won't be for a while, but giving up is probably the worst possible thing we could do right now. Guys, did Woody give up when he ended up in the hands of the evil neighbor Sid, or when he was stolen from the garage sale, or when he was accidentally given away to the daycare? And oh my god, I'm so excited for Toy Story 4. Okay. I recognize that it's incredibly tempting to just hide from the hellfire for the next 4 years, be that just by laying low or trying to leave the country, which may prove to be a little harder than we thought. Regardless, I strongly encourage you not to do that. There's a lot that's out of our hands, but there's also a lot that's in them. Do not quit. The second thing is to practice decency. This election has shown us that it wasn't just these guys, or this woman, or even this kid who voted for Trump. You may not remember this one, just allow me to jog your memory really quick. Okay. Yeah, 90s tween heartthrob Aaron Carter did endorse Donald Trump. Who knew Aaron's party was the Republican Party? That is not what the flyer said. Just quickly, if anyone feels upset by this, you should know that Aaron Carter doesn't really do anything anymore except try to convince people on Twitter that he's still famous. Also, this is what he looks like now, so we'll just leave him in his right-wing K-Fed neck tattoo glory. So, these people voted for Trump, and we could have expected as much, but so did half the country. Half. There is so much anger coming from both sides of the political spectrum right now. Many people on the right feel like they were left behind in the past 8 years in the regrowth of America. People on the left are very dissatisfied with the election outcome. I mean, after all of Trump's comments about women and immigrants, who's to say if his own wife even voted for him? Oh, right, okay. I know that it's very difficult to try to spread love in hateful times like these, but to fight fire with fire only generates more fire, and God knows Mike Pence doesn't want to allow any flaming in this country anymore. Regardless, it is on us to combat that hate, love thy neighbor as yourself, and all that other great stuff. We've been dealing with a lot of hate for ever, but especially in the last 18 months. It is our responsibility to fight back with love because we know that women shouldn't feel like they can't be the president, immigrants should not feel like they don't belong, and no one should feel unsafe in a country that belongs to them too. Woo! I guess I will leave you with the words of one amazing, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, nasty woman who is not so good at dabbing. Be kind to one another. We'll be right back.